Hello, hello! Welcome to the Coffee and Craft podcast. I'm Kim, and this is where I drink coffee, chat to you about all things handmade business related, and I keep you company while you sit and craft or work, whatever it is that you're doing. Now, this wasn't the video that I was... excuse me, we're having hair issues already. This wasn't the video that I was planning on making this week. I was planning on making a video about YouTube for handmade business. Periodically I make those videos and they seem to be helpful to you, so I thought I would do one of those, but no, something else jumped the queue. So today we are going to be talking about why, if you're finding sales are hard to come by at the moment, why that is okay. And yeah, I know. There's always going to be people who are not making sales at any time of the year, and there's always going to be people who are flying at any time of the year. But I do think that, I think it's fair to say that right now, and I'm filming this in January 2024, for those who are interested, if you're watching this in the future, there is a lot going on at the moment, and I feel like not talking about it doesn't make it any bloody easier. So I think it's actually helpful to talk about it. And I like to talk, so here we go. It's so lonely sometimes running an online business. So you need your community. And if your community is only sharing the good, and like only the good, and never going, actually, things are a bit crap right now, then you can start to compare yourself to them, and you can end up feeling like you're doing something wrong. And we've talked recently about comparison and, you know, the importance of trying to not do that. Well, it's all very well me rocking up and saying, don't compare yourself to others, but we're also human and we're kind of wired to do that. So yeah, there's that. But it just helps us get out of our heads a little bit and feel less alone if we know that there are other people out there who are also going, things are tricky. So here you go. If you need that kind of a talk right now, then you're in the right place, because things are tricky, but it's also okay. I mean, it's not, but it is. Hopefully you'll get what I'm saying. All right, well, the first point that I have to make is the obvious one, and that's seasonality. But yeah, at the start of the year is traditionally one of the quietest times of the year for most businesses. I say most because of course there's outliers, and there's people who go, actually, I think you'll find I do really well at this time of year. Good for you. No, genuinely good for you, because if you're a handmade business and you're doing well, please don't feel bad about that or guilty in any way, shape or form, because I personally need people like you who are doing well, because it makes me feel like it's at least possible. So yes, if that's you, seriously good for you. Put it this way, I made a sale on Shopify recently, and it scared me because I forgot what the noise was. I have made sales, but it's been a few weeks and my brain was just like, what is that? January is a traditionally quiet period for me anyway, and my point is that it could well be for you too. So if you're very, very quiet with sales right now, that's normal. It sucks, but it's normal. Christmas is an expensive time, and this Christmas, I've spoken in my reset video recently, my personal expenditure went a little bit, it wasn't even silly, that's the worst thing. It was silly and it felt uncomfortable, but I was still spending mindfully. That was the scary thing. It wasn't like I was just like, you have a present and you have a present and we all get presents. It was Christmas, and it was Christmas in a recession in all but name, which is the next thing. The next reason why we are all holding on by our fingertips is because we are in we could, here in the UK, right now be in a recession. We don't know yet because we don't know the figures for the last quarter. It's a possibility. We might miss it. We might just like skim it again by the skin of our teeth. But as I've said previous times, it feels like a recession in all but name, and that matters. I remember making a video on this, I can't even remember when it was. It was a year and a half ago, I think. And I don't want to say predicting these times, because it's not a prediction. It was talked about in the news. It was a known fact. And I was talking about it because I knew that it was going to be hard, and I was afraid of seeing a lot of handmade businesses go out of business. And I feel like, as I say, it can be a lonely place anyway. So you don't want to see people in your community leave and go out of business, because it gets a lot lonelier. I know, it's all about me. But yeah, so I made this video, and I was just trying to talk about the different ways that we could try and prepare for the storm that was coming. And I got accused by a couple of people on the internet of making a doom and gloomy video for clicks, which it hurt my feelings a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. I am human, because that wasn't my intention, and also because I thought, well, I'm not just pulling this out of thin air. It's like, just turn on the news. It's there. And also, well, I wasn't wrong, was I? My point is, we're here, we're in it. The storm has well and truly landed, and we're all like, okay, we get it, okay. When's it gonna finish, please? For what it's worth, because I do pay attention, and I do kind of, I guess there is a little part of me that enjoys this sort of topic. It does seem to be the consensus, for now at least, that we are over the worst of it, and things should start to get a little easier from here on in, but it's going to be slow. And here in the UK, apparently it's going to be slower for us than others, because of certain decisions we've made in the past that I'm not going to go into, because I don't want to have people shouting at me again in the comments. I had that the other week when I had the audacity to talk about the need to pay your taxes and get people's consent before you email them. That last bit really, really upset some people. I woke up one morning and the first comment I saw was just one word. It was Karen. I was like, really? I get called Karen because I have the audacity to suggest that you need someone's consent before you use their personal information? And that was a good day. Honestly, it's bittersweet when a video pops off, because on the one hand you're like, yes, it's going to be a little bit easier to pay my mortgage this month, and on the other hand you're like, oh, but people are going to come at me. And they did. Anyway, I'm not here to moan about that. My point is that, yeah, the recession, or the recession in all but name, is going to have an impact. We are going to feel it. It is a thing. I think most people would agree on that now. And you can't downplay the importance of what's going on. Fingers crossed it will start to get easier, so we just have to hold on for a little while longer. But that's, again, providing nothing big happens in the world that will have a knock-on effect. And so far that hasn't happened for a few years now, so hey! My point is that it gets better. It does get better. It just, you know, might take time, like a broken leg. And I myself have just had possibly the worst holiday season that I've had since I first started up my business. And I think it's the worst. It was the worst holiday season in my self-employed career to date, because at the start of my business you expect things to be slow, and it was slow because I was just getting started, so there was a good reason for that. This one, it was just... So yes, you are not alone at all, not alone at all. But I do genuinely believe that things will get better. We just have to hold on tight. And while it's quiet, I mean, it might seem a little bit dismissive to sort of say, make the most of the quiet time and prepare, but seriously make the most of the quiet time and prepare. I'm trying to do this myself at the moment. Now that it's a bit quiet, I'm taking the opportunity to tidy up my Etsy shop. Yes, I know. I think I said last year towards the end that I was going to try and do this. I just didn't. To be fair, I was creating the course at the time and I was knee deep in that, so it was the worst time to set myself that task. Now, however, is not the worst time. Now is the best time, because that part of the business is quiet, so I can take the opportunity to work on it as opposed to in it. Right, the other thing I wanted to talk about, because those two things that I've mentioned are two things that they're out of your control. Seasonality, recession or not, you have no control over this. Your chosen platforms that you choose to promote yourself on, that is within your control. And this is where I start getting a little bit nerdy, because I have opinions on this. When you choose a platform to sell on, a lot of people do so without taking into consideration the intent of people who use the platform. Now, what I mean by that is, when you sell something on Etsy, or when you list something on Etsy, it's more likely to sell than if you were just to post that same picture on, say, somewhere like Instagram as a grid post, for example. Why? Because very different intentions when people go on there. When people go on to Etsy, they go on to buy something, or at the very least to browse. But then when people go onto Instagram, they're not going on there with the intent to buy something. They're going on there with the intent to be entertained, to kill a couple of minutes while they're stood in the queue or waiting to pick their kids up from school, or what have you. They're there for entertainment, not to buy something. They might buy something, but that isn't their initial intent. And often they just want to scroll, and when they're being advertised to, it interrupts that scroll, and yeah, if it's not done well, it can actually just piss people off, and they'll click off. But you have to understand the intent, the original intent of the people who use the platforms that you use to promote on. And therefore, on somewhere like social media, your content has to be entertaining. I say that with a laugh because I know that this is going to annoy so many people, because they're like, I'm an artist, not an entertainer. I get it. Trust me, I get it. But I want you to think of it like this. Content, when you have an online business, is a form of advertising. And if you have a brick and mortar store, you still have to advertise, you just advertise in different ways. Whereas if you have an online business, content is how you advertise. And your content doesn't necessarily have to be entertaining, because it depends again on the platform that you're on. If you were to post entertaining content on, I don't know, maybe Pinterest, for example. I mean, I'm not a Pinterest professional by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm guessing it wouldn't do as well, because there's a different kind of intent for the people that go on the platform. For example, when I use it, I tend to use it for inspiration, and my brain is immediately... I bought this little frog figurine, this little knitted frog figurine for my daughter. I'll put a picture here, at Christmas time, and she's got an old doll's house that I pulled down from the attic, and the idea is that we are going to do it up, because she is obsessed with... you've probably seen her work. She's again on Instagram. What's her name? Is it India Rose Crawford? I'll pop her name here somewhere. I follow her account, and I was watching a video, and my daughter saw it over my shoulder, and she just anchored on it, and she wants to do her own version of that. She just wants to sort of set up little images and take pictures and stuff. So, and I thought that would be a cool thing that we could do together. Anyway, I'm digressing. My point is that a lot of the time when I go onto Pinterest, it's for doll's house stuff, and just any kind of inspiration for things that we can make or even buy for the doll's house. So there is a different intent there on Pinterest, and entertainment isn't necessarily it, unless you consider browsing for doll's house inspiration as entertainment, which, you know, I guess it could be. But that's my point. A real type thing on Pinterest may not do as well on Pinterest as it does on, say, TikTok or Instagram. I hope I'm just getting across that there's a different intent, and there's a different culture on every platform that you go on. And so there isn't just a one size fits all. You can't just take a piece of content that works for one platform and just blitz it on all others and expect the same results, because it won't, it just doesn't happen that way. So the reason why I'm talking about platforms is because I'm wondering if perhaps this could be something that is within your control, that you can use to your benefit to try and drum up some sales, maybe just by changing how you approach the platforms that you are on. For example, I think I'm a brilliant example of how not to do Instagram, because I post pictures of my products on my grid And that's it. It's not how Instagram has been done for a very long time. So why do I do it? Well, Instagram pissed me off. It became very hard work for very little in return, and I found other platforms that did work for me, YouTube being one of them, and I decided to put my efforts there. So I don't have much energy left to do much more than I'm already doing on Instagram. However, I do have plans to start dabbling with Reels, just because the curiosity and the spark is there. That's a story for another day. But that is the kind of content that works well on Instagram. There's a word for it. I even mention it in the course. What is it? Oh my days. Retailtainment. I don't know why that tickles me so much, but it does. And here on YouTube, for example, I mean, these videos, I guess, could be considered, what's the other one? Edutainment. Do you see what I mean? It's like, it's entertainment, but there's education wrapped in there. Or it's oh, for God's sake. It was obviously going to be a word wobble, wasn't it? Or it's entertainment, but with retail mixed in there. Hopefully you get my point, because I'm not going back and trying that one again. Okay, and then the other thing to ask yourself, if you're not getting too many sales right now, is that what are you doing to help yourself stand out? Yeah, I know, I'm banging that drum again, but I really do believe that in this day and age of the internet, standing out is where we have to put our attention, or at least some of it. I do get a little bit sick and tired of seeing people suggest that you go to your competition and you emulate what's working for them, because then you're just making yourself an echo. You're purposefully placing yourself behind other people, hoping for a scrap of their success, and it just doesn't work. It's partly one of the reasons why the internet is as saturated with rubbish that you forget about seconds after seeing it, because it's just people copying people, copying people, copying people, and it's now, when I say standing out, I mean there's 101 different things that could refer to. Standing out could be your products, it could be your descriptions, it could be your photographs, it could be how you promote your content. Any way that you can think of, it can refer to that. When I think about standing out, I'm trying to think about how I stand out in my videos here on YouTube, or how my products stand out. Photographs I find are trickier, because you have to play within the confines of what does well on, for example, Etsy. And sometimes the way to stand out goes against that, so it's tricky. One of the ways I stand out is, or has been, to try and make sure that I have my logo in every picture, which I know, controversial, some people love it, some people hate it. Etsy don't particularly like it, and they've made it a damn sight harder with their ratio changes, their photographs, excuse me, and it's one of the reasons why I'm going back to my photographs, because they're a hot mess at the moment. My logos are cropped out, which I do wonder if that's partly the reason why Etsy has done it. They do like to take away independent sellers' identities so that it all just looks like it's from Etsy. But my logos aren't going anywhere, so I just need to change my photographs so that my logos can be in there, and that's one way that I can stand out. You also need to think about whose attention you're trying to get, because what might grab the attention of one customer won't necessarily grab the attention of another customer. So what you're selling and who you're selling to matters hugely. Which brings me to the next thing that may be slowing your sales down. And it's kind of a two-sided coin. You could either be making the right products but trying to get the attention of the wrong people, or you could be trying to get the attention of the right people, but you could be making the wrong products for them. Does that make sense? That makes no sense whatsoever. I'm going to go into it. So you've got to ask yourself the question, who are you hoping to sell your items to? Who is your customer? And I know, it's such a boring question. And I used to really hate it when people used to ask that question of me, because I'd be like, I don't know, whoever wants to buy my product, obviously. Well, not obviously, as I found out, because it was only when I started focusing on the person I wanted to sell my products to that I started actually making more sales. I know. But the thing is, just knowing that can really help you. For example, if you have a clear idea in your head of the type of customer that you're going for example, I try to go for people like me, people who make and create things, makers and creators. Specifically, makers and creators of projects, you know, that they might knit or crochet or embroider and need project bags for. Because hi, if you didn't know, I do hand embroidery and I make project bags. So obviously my ideal customer is going to be someone who's going to use project bags, knitters, crocheters, hand embroidery artists. Not, for example, someone who's on a lookout for a leather wallet or a wooden bird feeder or stickers. You see what I mean? There's hundreds of buyers on Etsy online, but not every single one of them is going to purchase from you, and you shouldn't be going after every single one of them. I think we tend to make the mistake of thinking that everyone is a customer and anyone can buy. And that's true to a point, but you can waste a lot of your time and energy and even money in some cases trying to attract the wrong people. So let's just say you know exactly what kind of customer that you are going for, and then you're going to try and go, hi, I've got this thing that I think you'll like. How do you know if you've got them? This is where I go onto the platforms that I use to promote myself on, and I look at the analytics and I build up a profile from the information that the analytics gives me, and then I compare that person, the analytics person, to my ideal person. And hopefully they should be more or less the same person. But if they're not, there could be an issue there that's affecting your sales. This is where I'm going to go off on a tangent a bit because I can really nerd out on this stuff. If you find that you have been attracting the wrong audience, you kind of have two choices. You can either make new products that will, what's the word I'm looking for? Appeal to your existing audience, or you can stick with the products that you already have, but pivot your messaging to attract a new audience. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're just going to sort of sack off your old audience and replace them, but just attract new people so that you're just sort of gently steering your ship back on track. Those are the two options that you've got, and what you will choose will be completely down to you. Or it might be a bit of both. I've spent the last year and a half pivoting. that freaking word. It's going to haunt me forever. But I have been pivoting my business over the last year and a half. Not crazily, but just pivoting it because I did get off track, and I noticed that my audience were not the audience that I was making products for. So I've kind of doubled down on my messaging, doubled down on making sure people understand what my products are and who I'm going for. Even here on YouTube, I really doubled down on my messaging that I'm here for small online handmade businesses, because I was attracting, believe it or not, a lot of the business bros and the get-rich-quickers and the resellers and the dropshippers, because I was making generic Etsy content and I was not being clear that I was doing so from a handmade business point of view. So I was starting to attract the wrong crowd here. I needed to be clearer with that messaging, and I did, and this channel has improved greatly as a result. I know, I'm digressing a lot. Like I said, I can really get into the weeds on this topic, and I do in my course, which I have a course. I wouldn't be a good business person if I didn't promote it, and I'm trying to get better. So there is a link in the profile. It's called Crafting Connections, and it's all about finding out who your ideal customer is and all of this stuff that I've just been talking to. But I wanted to talk about it quickly here because I do think it's important that we all just occasionally just have a look at who we're talking to and just try and see if there's maybe a mismatch there, because this is again something that is within our control, and we can tweak it if we find that we've gone off course a little bit, and it might help us get out of a rut with sales. It's important stuff, guys. so important that it will not be the last time I talk about it, just to warn you. I feel like we're in danger of this topic going off the tracks a little bit now. So I'm going to end this video by simply saying, yes, things are tricky right now. The recession that we're in all but name, these things don't last forever. The whole point of me making this video is that I was hoping to offer a little bit of reassurance to anybody else who has been seeing a little bit of flatness with regards to sales and has been feeling a bit flat themselves as a result. You are not alone, and things will get better. And there are some things that are within your control that you can do, and if things are quieter now, take advantage of that time. Editing Kim here. It was at this point that my battery ran out and I got cut off. So I'm just going to finish up the video now and say thank you for listening. The one thing that I would like you to take away from this video is that better times are ahead, because nothing lasts forever, including challenging times. So if you are finding right now to be challenging, know you're not alone. There are some things that you can do to maybe help change things. And there's also a lot that's completely out of your control. So take heart and hang tight. And I will see you again next week. Bye-bye.